Basketball is back. Duke's men's basketball team takes on 10th-ranked Kentucky on Tuesday. The women's team takes on Winthrop too. How are we looking this year for Coach K's last season? This week, we have a Duke basketball preview. I'm Jake Sheridan, and you're listening to Duke Week, the Chronicle's weekly news podcast. Today, we're going to hear from Durham County Commissioner Nida Allam, who announced Monday that she'll be running to represent North Carolina in Congress. We'll also learn about an effort to revamp the Trinity curriculum from reporter Nadia. But first, we've got Chronicle sports editor and men's basketball beat writer Jake Piazza to talk hoops. Jake, how's it going?
I'm good, Jake. Happy to be here. It's good to see you again.
The Duke men's basketball season kicks off tomorrow. What's the big narrative around Duke basketball this year?
I mean, unless you've been living under a rock these past 3 months, Coach K. One last ride, one last dance, whatever you want to call it. But is it going to be his 6th ring? That's the big question.
Who's this Coach K guy?
He's been the Duke men's basketball coach for a couple years, won a couple games and a couple championships for him.
Well, I hope he does well. So who are the big stars for our basketball team this year, our men's basketball team?
Well, the big one, Paulo Banchero out of Washington, 5-star, checks pretty much every single box you could ask for in a basketball player. 6'10" and has incredible body control. And, that everyone's noticed too. We're not the only outlet. I mean, he was an NABC pick for preseason player of the year, potential number 1 pick. And I think another guy to watch out for is Trevor Keels, another freshman as well. But he's a bigger guard at 6'4", about 220, and he's physically mature, and he has shown an incredible shooting ability just in the 2 performances we've seen so far. So I would say those 2 guys are really, really going to be the Dukes to look out for on this team.
So how do you think we'll do this year? You're the expert, you're the Chronicle's beat writer, you're the sports editor. How do you think we're going to do?
My official season-long prediction, 26-5. I got them losing 4 ACC games. I think it's inevitable. I know the ACC maybe is not quite as good as it's been historically, but it is still a tough conference. But I will say, I do think Duke beats Kentucky. That's my big pick for the start of the year. I think it'll be a statement. You
think we're getting 6 rings here? You think we're winning the championship?
I can't say the 6th ring, but I will say it realistically. I think Final Four trip to New Orleans is going to happen this season. I absolutely do.
And what about the women's team? How are they looking this year?
The women's team is very exciting. Kara Lawson has brought in a bunch of really, really talented transfers, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how everyone meshes together and kind of the coaching job she does there. I would say one of the transfers that myself and our beats are particularly excited about is Celeste Taylor out of Texas. And as far as returners that we're looking at, Jade Williams, who is actually, I think, the longest tenured person on this roster now with all the turnover we've seen. She had great expectations last season with them opting to cancel their season due to COVID concerns. We didn't get to see that pan out. She's back now. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Lawson decides to use her at the 5.
We play Kentucky on Tuesday. Can you give me a preview for the game? What should we look for?
It's a really talented team. It's a more experienced team than maybe we're typically used to seeing Kentucky at the start of seasons. But I ultimately think it's going to come down to the 3-point ball. If I'm looking at it, I think Kentucky can get really hot, but Ty Washington and Severe Wheeler are not exactly sharp shooters per se. And then I think kind of the same can be said with Duke. A ton of talent, and I really think they can shoot the 3 ball well, but I think that's what's going to come down to Tuesday night.
All right, well, we'll see then. And go Duke. Thanks for joining us, Jake.
Thank you, Jake. Happy to be here.
Coach K, if you're listening, I'm happy to hop on the team whenever you need me. Nida Allam is Durham's county commissioner, and as of Monday, she's also a candidate for Congress. She joins us to talk about her campaign. Commissioner Allam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jake.
So you've decided to enter the race for NCO 6 to represent North Carolina in Congress. Why did you decide to run?
I decided to run because Congressman Price was a really great representative for this district for the past over 30 years. And I think we're going to lose a lot of information when he leaves because of his tenure. And we need someone who's going to hit the ground running and get to Congress and be ready to fight to support President Joe Biden's agenda and also push for a progressive movement. And this district in North Carolina is the best place to do that.
So why are you the person most capable of leading that push?
I believe I'm the best person to lead this charge because the average age of this district is now 36, which means that the issues that our generation and the next generation are going to be facing are going to be decided by this next Congress. And we need to have representatives that are actually going to understand what the experiences we are going to have to go through if climate change isn't taken seriously and if there continues to be inaction. Our kids and us, we're the ones who are going to have to live with the detrimental natural disasters in this country.
So you mentioned climate change. What are some other big, policy areas for you? What else are you hoping to accomplish if you're elected?
Yeah, I really hope that we'll be able to make healthcare a basic human right by passing Medicare for all. We've seen here in North Carolina that our legislature fails to expand Medicaid, and that's a huge problem because there are hundreds of thousands of North Carolinians that are struggling to make ends meet and have to decide between paying their bills or paying for their prescriptions and doctor visits. So we need to pass Medicare for all at the federal level to make sure everyone has access to healthcare, as well as fighting for affordable housing, because we see in this district, but also across the country, that housing prices are skyrocketing and folks are being priced out of their homes, as well as new graduates and people who are just entering the workforce. They're not able to find a place that they can afford to live close to their work, and that's making it harder for the workforce.
You're serving as Durham's county commissioner right now. What have you learned in that role?
I serve with 4 really amazing women who have different lived experiences that I've been able to learn from each and every one of them about how to fight for our students, from former school board member Heidi Carter, how to make sure that we are prioritizing our most marginalized communities by Chair Howerton. That's been her main issue area and focus, and been able to learn so much from her, and so on. And I think that is what's really important for this next leader, someone who's willing to learn from their colleagues and build from that and be able to take that level of experience to Congress.
What else do you think is important about you and your campaign that listeners should know about?
What I think is really important is that this is going to be a grassroots movement, and we don't need another status quo person or elected official in the federal office. We need someone who's going to be a fighter and be pushing for the progressive agenda, because that's what we need right now. This moment is critical. If we don't take action on so many issues, we're going to be leaving our next generation with detrimental effects. And that's so important to have someone who understands that and understands, right now me and my husband have been talking about starting a family. And part of that conversation is there going to be a planet for our kids to live in? Is the community going to be safe for our kids to grow up in as Muslim Americans? All of that is a factor into it, and that needs to be addressed at the federal level, and those voices need to be at the table. And I think what's going to be really exciting about this campaign is that, this is the first time this district has been able to have a very competitive primary in over 30 years. So folks are going to have the ability to choose who they want to represent them for the near future. This district is very diverse and very young, and we haven't had candidates that have been able to excite and mobilize our younger voters and our students who, like you, have been here and have settled in Durham, and Durham is now their home. And we need to make sure that they have a representative that's representing them and their voice also on these issues. So our campaign is going to be powered by our youth, by our marginalized communities, by people who've been left out of the political process.
Well, thanks for joining us, Commissioner Allam.
Thank you so much again for having me, Jake. I appreciate it.
Next, we have Chronicle managing editor Nadia to talk about a plan to revamp Trinity's curriculum. Hey, Nadia, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm glad to be here.
So, you wrote a story about the Trinity Arts and Sciences Council introducing plans to revamp the Trinity curriculum. Tell me about those plans. Who's going to do what?
Yeah, so every few, I would say decades or so, Trinity reevaluates its curriculum to sort of best serve students. So this process will involve a committee involving people from Trinity, Pratt, and all the other schools at Duke, because these are all sort of areas that interact with Trinity students and vice versa. And the people that are on the committee will be selected by Trinity Dean Valerie Ashby.
Why is the curriculum being reevaluated?
Duke essentially wants students to be more prepared for the world that they're going into. And the current curriculum, which is Curriculum 2000, which was developed in 1999. So it's been a while since the last reevaluation of the curriculum, and things are a bit more outdated. And something that came up at the Arts and Science Council meeting was that people wanted to incorporate more digital literacy, informational literacy into the curriculum. So essentially, they want students to be more prepared for the 21st century world that they're living in now.
So you mentioned digital literacy. What kind of changes can we expect in the curriculum?
As of now, that's still up in the air, but I think they definitely want to incorporate more literacy into classes, different requirements, and potentially like changing around some other curricular things.
And when might these changes actually occur?
Yeah, so it's an ongoing process. They're currently planning to have a proposal for the new curriculum done by the end of the 2022-2023 school year.
Well, thanks for talking with us, Nadia.
Thanks for having me.
In other news, Durham has a new leader. Elaine O'Neill won the race for mayor in last Tuesday's election. She'll be the first Black woman to hold the office. Incumbents Dadriana Freeman and Mark Anthony Middleton comfortably held on to their city council seats. They'll be joined by Zweli's restaurant owner and former teacher, Leonardo Williams, who won a close race in Ward 3. Students can now receive COVID-19 booster shots, an email from the university's health director said last week. You can schedule an appointment online. I got my shot today. You should go and get yours. Also, a dead person was found in the forest near Penn Pavilion Sunday morning. As of Tuesday evening, we've been told by administrators and police that the body has been identified, that the person was a male, that they were not a student, and that foul play is not suspected. No Duke alert was sent when the dead person was found because police determined that there was no risk to the Duke community. That's all for this episode of Duke Week. If you like what we're doing, subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and share the show with your friends. The song you heard is Goji Berry Beat by Nana Kwabena. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again next week.